So I'm talking about the Lightning future. My name's Bobby. I'm from Voltage. We're a Lightning payments provider. We provide an API for exchanges, neobanks, wallets, businesses who want to integrate the Lightning network in an easy way. So the Lightning future. What this discussion kind of covers is a little bit about Bitcoin. I don't know if everyone here is Lightning obsessed. I would assume you are. But I'm going to cover a little about Bitcoin, some Lightning, and then talk about stablecoins, taproot assets, yield, as well as what's coming product-wise in terms of lending, AI, and such. And some of this info is what we built at Voltage, and some of it is from webinars and content we've done with Amboss.space, if anybody knows Jesse Schrader, the CEO of Amboss, as well as Silicon Valley Bank. We did an article alongside them, and a few other Lightning businesses did, discussing how we're in the productization era of Bitcoin. So I'll just keep turning around like this. But we're at a point now where Bitcoin is beyond just a store of value. And as many of us probably know, but just to kind of base that here, Bitcoin's the global settlement layer, finalizing transactions without any intermediaries. Awesome. And we now have internet scale payments powered by the Lightning Network. So this is growing, and there's a lot of problems that still need to be solved in Lightning, as well as taproot assets, which I know is an exciting bit of technology, which is bringing Tether and other assets to Lightning. But we're seeing it today. Payments are happening at scale. And with programmable money and automated commerce, this gives a lot of just optionality for businesses to create unique solutions for their needs. And then lastly, taproot assets makes the Lightning Network a multi-asset platform. So if you're running a Lightning node and you're taking advantage of taproot assets, you can invoice someone for your preferred currency on the network or your preferred asset. And if I'm paying you, I can pay you in my preferred currency, and it effectively does a currency exchange on our behalf. So it saves a lot of time and a lot of money for us. So this chart, a guy named Mitchell shared it, who works at Blockware, but he posted this chart, and it was pretty eye-opening for me, and I just thought it's pretty important because for businesses and just individuals generally to adopt Bitcoin and Lightning, you want to see less volatility. It just makes you feel good when something's not volatile. Like, who loves a volatile lover, right? Like, same with your money. You want a little less volatility unless you enjoy the volatility and take advantage of it, because volatility is vitality, right? Everyone's heard that quote. But post-institutional era, we're seeing a lot more consistency in the pricing. So going into Lightning, like many of us know, instant settlement, everything clears in seconds, near zero fees, multi-asset support like I was covering with the taproot assets upgrade, and we've got proven scalability. So for Voltage, like the reason we're even here is we're aiming to meet many exchanges in the Asian market. About 40% of all exchanges are in the Asian market. This is our first time in Asia. Love it, by the way. Had kimchi for the very first time, and I'm kind of in love. So I don't know why I was afraid to eat it before, but glad to be here. And regulatory clarity, a big thing happening in America, the Genius Act, and so much of this stuff going on. It's just making people comfortable to start taking steps forward for their business, which we love to see. And when it comes to accessibility, I love this chart. This gets people very excited, but you can see, and many of us who know the Lightning Network back here, was anyone in PlebNet? Raise your hand. I think I saw two. Was that just two? Okay. For those who don't know, just like Bitcoin, it started with tinkerers and like early technologists. The Lightning Network kind of started in the same way. People who had a passion for Bitcoin, they would deploy their capital into Lightning. And when you tried to send payments, a lot of them would fail, right? Like you did not have many nodes in the network. Very few economic actors on the network were hubs, meaning payments could flow through you. And now we're at a point where we've got, Wallet of Satoshi, River, all the way up to like Square and Binance, who are becoming hubs in the network. So because there's enough liquidity and high quality nodes, payments are just flowing like water, And one of my favorite kind of pictures that I always, tell my children is whenever there's a rock in a river and it's got a jagged edge, it makes kind of rapids. It becomes harder to ride a raft down the water. But over time, when that rock gets worn down by water just pounding it for years and years, it becomes very smooth. And that's why you find rocks that are smooth and you can skip them on water. So whether water's going on top or you're skipping it, it moves smoothly. And now that we have enough liquidity and nodes on the network, excuse me, we're seeing payments flow wonderfully. And we did a report with Fidelity Digital Assets in February this year because the Lightning Network's inherently pretty private. If anyone's familiar with River or Breeze, two other companies who leverage the Lightning Network, they've also put out reports. And because it's inherently private, and what we've got is called gossip information within the network, where you can only really see what's going on with your peers, it's important for companies like ours, River, Breeze, to put out these reports so that the broader world can understand how Lightning's being used, its success rates, and so on, because it's not like other tokens and like layer ones where everything's just fully transparent. So a benefit, but maybe a downside as it relates to institutional adoption. But Lightning's moment is here, and one kind of fun thing Roy from Breeze shared is like Lightning is kind of the communication layer or the language to a lot of these layer twos. So I really enjoy that too because I'm so focused on Lightning at Voltage. I love the fact that it does connect a lot of these layer twos because it kind of forces my hand to like learn and study them, and it's been just super fun understanding and beginning to grok all of the innovation happening on Bitcoin. And this is something we show a lot of businesses because folks don't necessarily understand, but Coinbase over here, they've added Lightning as a withdrawal option, and you can see that the settlement, it says 13 seconds, but anyone who's used Lightning, you've seen settlements maybe in like 1, 2, or 3 seconds. And then over here, I believe is a screenshot from Binance where it shows Lightning, the fees compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum, rather than like $9 and $8, you're paying 9 cents. So whether you're on Coinbase or Binance, you can see that there's superior settlement with faster times and just better unit economics. So some success metrics. This is super fun. And as a marketer in the industry, you can understand how challenging it is with early stage technology, helping businesses understand like why they should use Lightning. I'm not going to read all these. I'll let you read them. But the most fascinating and like fun thing for me to see is about 25 to 50% of Bitcoin transactions on exchanges tend to move to Lightning within 12 to 18 months. So at the end, I'll show some of the go-to-market tools and design things that we have built to help exchanges and wallets go to market successfully with Lightning. Because if you do remember, maybe 3 to 4 years ago, many businesses tried to move forward with the Lightning Network, and they struggled to do it well. And if you've used a website on your phone or on the web, you probably realize like the hamburger menu is not innovated anymore, right? We've got it well. Same with the wheel. We need the same type of interaction like we see with like WordPress sites or Webflow with Lightning. So there's actually a framework and a proper go-to-market and design strategy you can follow so that you get incredible adoption of Lightning. But these are just some wonderful metrics. Stablecoins on Bitcoin, the hot topic. So Taproot assets, I heard some folks talking about this earlier, but it's enabling you to issue assets on top of Bitcoin. So whether it be Tether, USDC, the Singaporean dollar, or your favorite altcoin. We met a gentleman last night, Pepsi Coin, shout out. You can issue whatever you want on top of Lightning. And I think this is interesting too because as I meet more exchanges and like these key opinion leaders and such who are basically getting more people into the industry via ref codes at the end of the day, tokens attract people, whether or not you're a Bitcoin maxi, Lightning maxi, penny maxi if you like picking up change in the Walmart parking lot. These things attract people to the market, and Taproot Assets enables you to issue any asset you want on top of Bitcoin and the Lightning Network. So stablecoins plus Lightning, this is the final piece of the puzzle to really advance liquidity on the Lightning Network to bring billions of dollars of capital. And actually, we'll touch more on that in a minute, but this makes Bitcoin full stack money. You've got the dollar, you've got Bitcoin, and a settlement layer, the Lightning Network. This is a screenshot from Bitcoin 2025. It's a video we often show because, believe it or not, as popular as Paulo is, and he's actually giving a talk right now at a stablecoin event just down the road, they are bringing their stablecoin to the Lightning Network. And the thing about this that's exciting is it's going to bring a lot of liquidity to the network. Organizations that do a lot of Bitcoin volumes, I'm sure you've seen exchanges, like at the top, there's always Bitcoin. And who would not want to vertically integrate? Like if you're familiar with business or been to business school, you understand vertical integration brings a lot of efficiency to a business. So if you have all of this capital stored in Bitcoin, why not bring the world's biggest stablecoin to Bitcoin to create vertical integration and efficiency? And fun fact, Who can guess how many trillion is wasted yearly in failed software deployments? $2 trillion yearly in failed software deployments. So it helps you kind of grok and understand why you would want to vertically integrate crypto technology on top of Bitcoin. And this is interesting. This was a Tether press release from July earlier this year, but they're deprecating 5 legacy blockchains and bringing the stablecoin to Lightning. So, you know, as a lot of these chains, like for me, I've discovered and like learned about Bitcoin in 2017 and 18. All the chains I knew back then that got me just excited for this industry, they're all kind of dead now. No one really uses them. And of course, Tether brings their stablecoin to the most relevant networks at the time. They're deprecating a lot of them, and they're bringing it to Lightning, obviously RGB, because these technologies are ready. And this is a belief we have that Lightning is going to capture anywhere between 100 to 500 billion of volumes by 2030. And kind of framework we present to executives is, you know, Bitcoin, you've got the ultimate trust, the most decentralized layer in this industry, arguably the only decentralized layer in this industry. Stablecoins, the ultimate stability for global commerce. And then Lightning, scalability and economics that make sense for businesses. And this is a fun fact. 40% of all blockchain fees are to send USDT. So you can imagine being a CEO of the most profitable company in the world, you would want to drive fees to near zero. This is, right, like how Walmart, you know, any of these large companies in the world, they want to have the lowest cost to attract new customers. So what I believe we're going to see over time is 40% of all blockchain fees over the next 10, 20 years will just trend to like 1 to 2% over Tether. And why? I believe Lightning, RGB, and other Bitcoin technologies are going to enable this to happen. So it'll be exciting to see the cost of fees go down. All right, non-custodial yield. Yield's obviously like a very hot thing in this world and industry, but the Lightning Network now brings yield to Bitcoin in a non-custodial way. You hold your own keys, and you get to make that sweet, sweet money. So the cool thing about this is you can earn, no counterparty risk, no lending, 100% self-custodial, so no Sam Bankman-Fried, no BlockFi, no Celsius, no bad actors. You get to hold your own Bitcoin. And one of the unique stories, and to me, frankly, the most exciting story out of Bitcoin 2025, Miles Suter, he shared that Cash App, over 8% of all on-chain volume on Bitcoin comes from Cash App. So imagine when there's 10, 20, 30, 50 Cash Apps in the world facilitating Bitcoin payments, blocks are full. There's a lot of FUD, like blocks are empty, what are we going to do? Well, wait till there's 10, 20, 50 Cash Apps. I think we're going to be okay. I know a lot of you might argue with me, but we'll save that for after the event. Lightning, they've had 7x growth year over year, and they have 25% of all transactions over Lightning. What does that mean? Lightning is used at scale for enterprises. It's doing quite well, my friends. So feel free to cheer for them, not me, right? Okay. Next, bit refill. So Cash App, as you can imagine, you're dollar cost averaging Bitcoin and sending it outward. So Cash App has lots of inbound capacity. Who's not familiar with the peer-to-peer nature of Lightning? I don't want to just speed too fast through this. Everyone understands like inbound and outbound capacity, yes? Okay. No? Okay. So on an economic transaction, like you're a node, to receive payments, you need inbound capacity. So it needs to be coming towards you. To send payments, you need outbound. So Cash App, they're holding the Bitcoin, right? And they allow their customers to send it out. So now they end up with inbound capacity, meaning payments can route through them. Bit refills on the opposite side. What they enable individuals to do is to buy gift cards. So individuals are constantly sending money to bit refill. So they have a lot of outbound capacity. They can send a lot of payments. So Cash App earned 9.7% yield. Bit refill, they earned 3.5%. They ran the numbers, as we say, after they saw Cash App's announcement. So whether you're doing a lot of sending or you're doing a lot of receiving, you have the ability to earn yield. So this is pretty game-changing, I would say, for businesses who are just dabbling in Bitcoin or wanting to go all in. Regardless of what side of the economic transaction you're on, you can make money. where does the yield come from, right? Has anyone read Alan Farrington? Where does the yield come from? He's a funny guy. He's a squirrel on the internet, if you don't know Alan. But payment routing, this is if you're a hub in the network. You're routing payments for other people. You're a great node. You enable in this peer-to-peer network for money to flow through you like water. You can historically earn 0 to 1%. Liquidity leasing, this is if a new node comes on the network. Imagine you're a new node. You can open channels to other peers, but all the money's on my side. I can only send payments. So how do I get inbound capacity? How do I set my node up to where I can have inbound where money can flow through me? That's where leasing comes into play. You can pay a fee, and one of these hubs on the network, one of these high-quality nodes, they'll give you some liquidity, and they will open a channel to you. So now, like if I open a channel to Binance, and I have money on my side, and I buy a channel and lease it from, let's say, Coinbase, and now money can flow through me, the payment can go, boom, come to my node, and it can flow out through Binance. So Coinbase sends through me, and it flows to Binance. That's what leasing is. So the first step is being a high-quality node on the network for all intents and purposes, and then you can sell liquidity, and this is where most of the yield is earned. All right, new use cases. So this was the article that Silicon Valley Bank put out, kind of covering Lightning payments as well as the lending market, which is hot and growing in Bitcoin, as well as AI-driven transactions. But Bitcoin lending, I didn't include all the slides from the deck just because we're limited with time, but majority of folks holding Bitcoin right now, something like 98, 99%, they're in the money. You know, they don't want to sell. You have to hold Bitcoin, I forget for the exact amount of months, but it's something like 18 months, and majority of folks are in the money, and most people don't want to sell, so you can take a loan out and, you know, pay back over time. But one of the big things happening in lending is margin calls. Like, who likes margin calls? Raise your hand. Oh, you're just scratching your head. Okay. Anyone like margin calls? Okay. Well, you can imagine with the volatility of Bitcoin, even though it's dampened, if you get margin called, it's not good for the customer, right? You lose your Bitcoin, boo-hoo. For the business, it kind of sucks because now your hardworking, well-paying customer ends up with less Bitcoin. What can solve this? Lightning top-ups. How cool is that? So if volatility happens, because as a business, you want to keep more working capital. You know, you don't want to just give up a bunch of Bitcoin just to de-risk, right? Lightning enables you to, if you ever get close to being margin called, boom, you can top up with Lightning immediately. So it de-risks the loans. It actually allows a business to take out more loans, theoretically, because it's easier to manage the risk and manage the margin call. So lending is growing, and Lightning is going to play a very, very major role in that. Lightning Network payments, as we all know. And then the AI-driven financial automations, autonomous trading, risk management, you know, APIs on the internet, you know, they make up like something like 80% of the traffic. So if you hit like an API wall, imagine just being able to pay like a microtransaction versus, you know, ending up with like a $100,000 million bill if you're paying for API usage as a company. But Lightning is going to enable autonomous agents to do tasks online. How many folks use AI or GPT like daily? Raise your hand. That's literally like 15%. Is that true? Are some people not raising their hand, or only like 15% of people using AI daily? Okay. So it's easy, I think, when you're like terminally online to think like everyone's using it. But for those who do use AI, like we're using a general model right now. Who's heard of ChatGPT? Is it most people, I'd assume? So ChatGPT is like a general model. It kind of has to like know everything, and that's why it's not necessarily perfectly great at anything. But over time, models are going to be like super specialized just to be good at one thing, you know? Like there might be an AI model that just knows every baseball statistic of all time, or, you know, might just know everything about Bitcoin or like calculus, whatever. And these AI agents, because they're trained on one specific thing, they cost less money to train. We're like training OpenAI, you know, you see Sam Altman be like, we need $40 trillion so we can train it on everything. And it's just like, whoa, where are you going to raise $40 trillion? But specialized AIs are going to become commonplace. And these very specialized AIs, you can give them a Bitcoin wallet. And if there's, imagine millions of AIs that are only built for one task, kind of like we are as humans, built and specialized like through school and trade to do one thing. You can just tap another one on the shoulder and say, hey, here's a few sats. I need to capture this information from you, whatever it may be. And then you go about your day. We're going to see the Lightning Network and other crypto technologies be empowered to do that, which is going to create a lot of efficiency. And I know there's a lot of like doom and like fear of AI, but the way I see it is we're going to automate out a lot of the things that just leave us like this, like we're all in like our phones and we're not making human connection. Like because I believe in accountability, I see the upside to AI where it's going to create more like human connection. We can focus more on like customer-centric things. We can focus more on like the human element and caring about people and better customer experiences. And it could fix a lot of the competency crisis that we're seeing across the board in industries. So call me ignorant, I call it optimistic. And I covered some of this already, but some of the real world cases, so in ChatGPT, they launched something called Agent, where you can actually tell the AI, like, go book me a flight, go book me a hotel, and get me the 3 cheapest prices. And then whenever I land in Singapore, find me a good breakfast, a place where I can pick up flowers for my wife, and the coolest thing I could do. And it'll go work for 15 minutes and come back and give you everything in the most efficient way. Like, talk about giving yourself time back and freeing up human capital where you can focus on more important things in your life versus being stuck and staring at a blue screen, right? That's just pretty exciting. Supply chain. I had a client back in the day. I've done like e-commerce marketing for like a decade before I came into Bitcoin, and this lady was brilliant. She wrote a script where whenever someone made a purchase, it would go look at like the 12 suppliers and pick the lowest cost and then ship it to the customer. Imagine instead of having to write a script and it just does something like that, it automatically rees up your inventory. It automatically adjusts your pricing based on competitors. It automatically updates your shipping, which, believe it or not, is a hell of a lot of work. We used to like sell these Excel file like projects that would take like 30 hours and charge like $5,000 for it. AI can do that for you for free. It frees up time for us. It actually gives us time back. And we covered this already, like the SaaS. Paying per API call. But it's an exciting time. And the convergence of all of these things are happening. So we really have like a Bitcoin native stack that enables lending, AI, and payments. And this is not everything. This is not the breadth of what Lightning and I think like a Bitcoin enables. There's a lot more. This is just what we could cover with this article with Silicon Valley Bank. But it's pretty exciting and inspiring because we have a native programmable system for just scalable commerce. The lending piece is just incredible. And AI agents, while it's still early, we're going to be required, in order to like fully capitalize on the ability of AI, we kind of have to like get out of its way and not be the intermediary for a computer that wants to do things instantly. So it's a pretty exciting time where we do have a native stack. And Christopher Callicott from Trammell Venture Partners, he said it best, I think. Lightning is the best way to handle the number of API calls needed to run AI at scale. It's fast, low cost, and native to the internet's infrastructure. So a little about us. I kind of briefly touched on it at the beginning. But one thing about Voltage, real quick, last 3 slides and then I'll be done, is we've created an API that just gives unified access to Bitcoin, Lightning, and stablecoins. You don't need to manage nodes, channels, or liquidity. So for anyone who's maybe not privy to Lightning or, this is maybe over your head, it is complex. Most businesses, whenever we started 5 years ago, we started as like a PLG company, a lot like Zoom or Gmail, where you just register with an email and you just get going. So it's like product-led growth. We've since switched to, account-based targeting. We're only going after exchanges. But no one wants to manage nodes, channels, this and that. That is why Lightning 4 years was completely unreliable. Is because now you're expecting like every node on the network to manage these complex things. It's really hard. There were a lot of Bitcoiners that were founders of companies, and initially they wanted to manage all their channels. They get 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the future, and they're just like, I don't have time to manage a node. I need to run my company effectively. Like, oh, I just learned how to like be a CEO. I can't focus on channels. Majority of people just want an API that works so Lightning payments send at scale. So very rational for someone who's accountable to customers and investors. With capital efficiency, as it relates to this is kind of cool. We're the only person doing this in the market now, but you can send now and pay later. So imagine an exchange says, hey, we want to send $100 million a month on Lightning. Well, typically you might need to bring hundreds or like thousands of Bitcoin to do that. We actually facilitate the payments where we'll get the liquidity for you, and you just pay a small cost to use it, so they don't have to lock up, thousands of Bitcoin. We'll make sure the liquidity is there. We get your payments done, and you pay a small cost at the end of the month. So, it's like pick your poison. Do we want to pay a small cost, or do we want to lock up a ton of working capital into the Lightning Network? Basically a credit product. Seamless integration. Chipper Cash, an exchange out of Africa. Their founder is like a wizard. He, over a weekend, implemented Lightning into their exchange. They didn't even do any marketing for it, and they got 50% of their customers using it without really doing any marketing, which is pretty awesome. But in Africa, their payment rails are not as reliable as other countries, so people just naturally gravitated to it because it was the best option for them. So integration can be very fast. Flexible settlement. So another thing we have available is you can choose to settle in USD or Bitcoin. A lot of folks don't want to touch Bitcoin, so we can make sure they settle in USD, meaning they take advantage of the Lightning rail for instant, near zero fee payments, but they only touch dollars. Very important for accounting. And then lastly, enterprise-based controls, whether it be dashboards, compliance tooling, getting your team involved, making that easy. Yeah, some of our investors, Valor, who's like Elon's go-to guy for capital. We've done a report with Fidelity, Kraft, David Sachs, the crypto AI czar in America. Google Ventures, now known as GV. And one thing about us, we power about 25 to 30% of all Lightning transactions globally. So people are using our technology, which is very exciting. And then lastly, how have we built trust? How have we become reliable to these enterprises? Well, as I mentioned earlier, Bitcoin and Lightning, it really started early on just with tinkering technologists who are having fun exploring this new technology. And for it to work at scale, you have to have good peers, well-balanced channels. And one thing we do for all of our customers is we have SLAs in place and minimum liquidity requirements and points of contact at many of the biggest exchanges and biggest nodes in the network to ensure that our customers have reliable payments, low cost, and liquidity where it needs to be when that payment must be done. So this is what's helped us scale, and this is just a little vision of what I believe is going to happen looking into the future. There's a lot that still must be solved, but if this inspires you at all and you have an engineering background or just a passion for Bitcoin and Lightning, I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to support you in your journey of building on Bitcoin. But I believe that's about it. And the last two things, we built a design guide. We did about 70 hours of research of all of the top exchanges globally, looking at who did it well, and we took notes and put this together so when new businesses begin to use Bitcoin and Lightning, they don't have to recreate the wheel. They can do design the right way so people adopt it, and it's not challenging. Also, a Lightning Success Playbook. We have a go-to-market playbook that's also pretty in-depth so that when you do go to market with Lightning, you get the level of adoption like we're seeing for our customers, like 25 to 50% of all Bitcoin transactions going directly to Lightning. So that's it. Thank you, guys.